Good morning. Welcome to the Congressional District 3 Fort Wayne public hearing on redistricting. We are glad that you've joined us today. I want to give a special thank you to Ivy Tech for opening their facility to us to have this public forum. Thank you. We do have several committee members yet to arrive, so they should be here in just the next couple of minutes. But I do want to point out for those who desire to speak today that we have forms on the back table for you to complete, and then you can bring those up front. If you could do that, we would greatly appreciate it. The redistricting process occurs every 10 years following the release of the decennial U.S. Census. The Indiana General Assembly is responsible for drawing the congressional districts and the Indiana House and Senate legislative districts. The redistricting data is usually released in March or April, but due to delays, the U.S. Census Bureau has indicated that the necessary data will not be released until August 12th, which happens to be next week. Representative Greg Sturwald is authoring the redistricting bills. They are currently listed as vehicle bills on the Indiana General Assembly website. Assuming the census data comes in as expected, the plan is for the General Assembly to reconvene in mid-September to debate and vote on the new districts. The legislation containing the new districts will follow the normal legislative process, which means there will be additional opportunities in both the House and Senate for public comment and input, as well as discussion amongst legislators. Members of the public will be able to draw and submit their own maps by using an online portal with mapping software at Ivy Tech campuses statewide. Assuming the data comes as planned, the online portal is expected to be launched in late August. I'd like to establish a few rules and guidelines for our meeting today. The purpose of this meeting is for Hoosiers across the state to provide input in the redistricting process. Members of the public are invited to speak generally to the principles of redistricting and specifically to their preferences for the new district lines, both for state legislative districts and the congressional districts. We have here the current maps as well as the 2000, the former maps of the congressional districts, the state Senate districts, and the state House districts. If you have any specific comments about your district or about the lines in your district or the communities in your district, that would be most helpful. We would appreciate that. Anything not related to redistricting specifically will be ruled out of order. For recognition to speak, you must complete a form. I've already announced that. Members of the public giving testimony are asked to limit their comments to 5 minutes or less. If we have more than, that allows for about 35 people to go if everyone keeps their comments limited. So I would just appreciate your conciseness in that matter. Questions from the committee members for clarification of testimony are in order. All other questions are out of order. Streaming of this meeting should be available at iga.in.gov/redistricting, as well as the recording of this meeting following its conclusion. I am Representative Tim Wesco from St. Joseph County, Elkhart County. I chair the House Elections and Apportionment Committee, and I'm honored to chair this meeting today. At this time, I will ask each of the members to introduce themselves, starting with Representative Ed Soliday to my left, and then going around the table.
I'm Representative Ed Soliday, District 4, Valparaiso.
Good morning. I'm Representative Craig Snow from District 18, which is Wabash and Kosciuszko.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. I'm Stacy Donato, State Senator for District 18. That's Cass, Miami, and Fulton counties in completion, and portions of Carroll, Kosciuszko, and Marshall counties.
Good morning. I'm State Senator Eric Cook of Bedford. I serve Senate District 44, which includes all or part of Lawrence, Monroe, Jackson, Brown, and Bartholomew counties.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. Ethan Manning, State Representative from House District 23, portions of Miami, Cass, and Fulton counties.
I'm Senator John Crane. I represent District 24, which is most of Hendricks and most of Putnam counties, just west of Indianapolis, and great to have you all here today.
Good morning. I'm Representative Ann Vermillion, District 31. That's Grant, Blackford, Wells, and Delaware.
Good morning, and thank you all for being here. I'm State Representative Cherish Pryor. I represent the northwest side of Indianapolis.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Fadi Kadura, and I'm the state senator representing Senate District 30, north side of Indy, south side of Hamilton County. And thank you for being here today. We appreciate you.
I'm State Representative Sue Arrington. My district is 34, which is Muncie. Mr. Chairman, could I make a comment before we start?
Certainly, Representative Arrington.
Thank you. Well, I really appreciate seeing all of you here because it's always valuable for legislators to hear public testimony. However, these hearings would be more valuable to the public if they were held after the new legislative and congressional districts are formally proposed. Today, we have no census data nor proposed maps on which the public can comment. It's important to know the redistricting process is actually two separate tracks operating in parallel. One is a public relations track that is visible to the public in hearings like this one. It is designed to create the appearance of transparency. Speaking about communities of interest, respecting geopolitical boundaries, and reaching out to the minority party, I'm sure we'll hear that. And fairness will be stressed. The other track happens behind closed doors, beyond the view of the public. There, political consultants input mass amounts of political and demographic data into a computer.
Excuse me, sir. I've given her the leave to speak. I appreciate your concern, though. Continue, Representative Arrington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Massive amounts of political and demographic data is fed into a computer that runs hundreds, if not thousands, of redistricting scenarios to find just the right one that will maximize the number of legislative and congressional seats for the majority party. This powerful combination of big data and computer power results in lopsided majorities for the party controlling the redistricting process that do not reflect the will of the voters. Evidence of this behind the closed doors track is Republicans' refusal to let the public see contracts that pay tax dollars to their redistricting consultants. They don't want you to know who they have hired and what they are paying them to do with your money. A contract that pays tax dollars to assist in a legislative activity is clearly a public record that should be disclosed under Indiana's public records law. But so far, Republicans have said no. So while today we will get to hear hopes and aspirations for new district maps, the public won't really have much impact on the outcome unless those closed-door redistricting track is forced to open sunshine to a public view. Let's have another set of hearings after the proposed maps are revealed so the public can tell us what they think of the maps produced by the behind the closed doors process. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Arrington. Thank you, Representative Arrington. This time I am going to begin to recognize speakers from the public. Order, please. We're going to ask the public to testify from the mic here on front. I am going to introduce the speaker and then name the next person on deck so that you can be prepared so that we can move quickly through the testimony and give as many people the opportunity to speak as possible. So I'd like to recognize first this morning Lori Bezer-Persons from Fort Wayne. On deck, Patricia Pendleton. Lori Bezer-Persons to start. I apologize.
So I look forward to that. I walk here. And I don't have a lot to say other than...
Could you speak? Is the mic on? Do we have a technical staff person? Can we make sure that that mic is on?
Better? Better?
Okay, mask into the mic. Okay.
Yes, just speak directly into the mic like this. Yes.
Okay. So I am local, walked here, live right down the street. I have lived on both sides of Fort Wayne. I just want to voice my opinion and the opinion of many people that I know that can't be here today, that we do not want to be split up. We need to keep places, communities of interest together. And I just think it's a conflict of interest when the lawmakers have such a say in our districts, when we, the community, should be able to choose or at least have some significant input. It should be transparent because it's our state. And I would say this whether it was a Democratic state or a Republican state. It is not right. It is, to me, just not part of our democratic process. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Lori. Patricia Pendleton, on deck, Lisa Bobe-Soners. Patricia Pendleton from Fort Wayne. Could you come forward to speak? On deck, Lisa Bobe, I believe it's Summers.
Persons on this panel and other decision-making persons of integrity. Can you hear me?
Ma'am, perhaps it would help if you could take the mic up and hold it up to your mouth. Or if we could.
For persons on this panel and other decision-making persons of integrity and other people in here, can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you. The recipe to create fair representation is fairly simple. To create a redistricting committee, Democrats choose persons whose integrity they respect. Republicans choose an equal number of persons whose integrity they respect. Independents should also be represented and choose representatives they feel are people of integrity. Each group needs to agree that the other person has selected a person of integrity. Those people get together, they are equally represented, they do the decision-making, they do the math, they draw the lines, they create districts. If it's done any other way, by a group that's dominated by any one of those groups and not respected by the other, it will not be considered fair representation. Democracy is such a rare thing throughout the history of humanity. In fact, democracy on a large scale, we created it. We, the United States, created democracy on a large scale and have worked throughout our 240 plus years to do better at it. We created it. It is up to our job to maintain it. We are the beacon on the hill that people in the Middle East, Africa, Southeast Asia, South America, anywhere where people's voices are not respected, where there's imprisonment for simply expressing your opinion, they look to us as the beacon holders. It's up to us to do it right for ourselves and for the world. Throughout the history of humanity and throughout this world, we're it. We're the ones who are supposed to show how to do it because we can do it and we have done it. It's not time to start whittling away at our representation, at fair representation. That should not be our goal. That should not be anyone's goal. We have a responsibility to history and to humanity to do it right.
Thank you. Lisa Bobe-Soners, on deck, Danita Myers. Welcome.
Thank you so much for allowing us to be here to speak. We appreciate this. Although I am concerned when I hear some of the commentary made by our other representative, Sue Arrington, which was really nice of you to allow her to speak, and I appreciate those words. I think everyone here probably appreciates those words, whether you're Republican or Democrat. We all want this to be transparent, right? And I know y'all feel the same way, so hopefully that'll occur. I have really a few questions that I want to read. One thing that we have concern regarding is, why is there a delay for this 2020 census? I know that everyone likes to blame the COVID crisis for this, and I know this firsthand from being in the medical community. But I think a lot of people really aren't buying that. I think a lot of people are thinking that there's a reason why we keep delaying the census data and saying that we're delaying redistricting and delaying putting out the actual maps because of needing more data. And so we really want to put out the maps, let us see what it is, and then let's talk more, just like Mrs. Arrington said. Also, is there a possibility that even some of the districts that'll be drawn, I think I'm a conservative Republican, but I value freedom and free and safe elections above everything else. And one of the things I'm concerned about is, some of these districts may actually even favor Democrats. There's been a even with, I know it's hard to imagine, but even with a Republican supermajority.
We can all respect the speaker. Thank you. Continue.
In the case of certain members of the Indiana representation, such as conservatives like John Jacob and Kurt Nicely, there has been a concerted effort to try and redistrict their districts to make them more Democrat, so it's harder for them to win as a conservative Republican, to try and get rid of them. And so these are big concerns that we have and we'd like to see addressed. And the way that you can make sure that everyone understands that you're not trying to do that is by making sure that these are open, free, and they're transparent so we can see what you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Danita Myers on deck, John Watson. And before I recognize Danita Myers, I failed to recognize a couple of legislators that are here in the audience. Leader Phil Giacquina, glad to have you here today, and Senator Andy Zay is also here today. So I want to make sure, is there any other legislators I haven't noticed yet? I think that's everybody here. Danita Myers from Fort Wayne, or Fort Myers? You meant Fort Wayne, okay. It says Fort Myers.
Okay.
On deck, John
where
Watson.
I'm from today.
Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I do agree with what's been said here today, and I think transparency is big. I think the American people have lost trust in our government and our medical community, and I think if you're not transparent, the trust is not going to be put back there. It is a lost cause. You need to help and start rebuilding that. And by being behind closed doors, that's not going to happen. You guys need to show us that we are part of this process. Going behind closed doors at all and saying, we're going to listen to all these other people with stats, and this is not your state. This is our state. We should have a say. And since redistricting is really a subjective process, what would be the rationale for redistricting strong Republican districts? I don't understand that. I've seen 2 articles saying House Speaker Todd Huston wants to redistrict 22 and 93 to make the reelection of 2 liberty-minded, constitutional, conservative representatives more difficult. To me, that's targeting. I don't care if they're Democratic, Republican. You should not target anybody. It should be fair and square. We teach our kids this. It should also apply in life. Can you assure us the power of who decides our elected officials resides with the voters in our own district and not with the legislators? I feel like you guys have taken the power and it's returned government, us, and God. It should not be that way. We should be at least in the middle, if not on the top. Thank you.
Thank you, Danita. John Watson from Fort Wayne, on deck, Karen Nicias Roger. John Watson, welcome.
Can you hear me? Indiana is a gerrymandered state, currently gerrymandered by Republicans, which gives them a supermajority in the state legislature. Prior to my moving here in 2003, it was gerrymandered by the Democrats, I believe. Neither party should be permitted to draw districts that make them gerrymandered in favor of one party over another. The way to prevent this is to have a panel of independent, neutral, or otherwise unbiased persons be responsible for drawing legislative districts. This can be accomplished by appointing an equal number of Democrats and Republicans to a panel. Their party affiliation can be determined by voter registration records. Alternatively, a group of independent people with no party affiliation could be appointed to draw the districts. When districts are gerrymandered by one party, it creates a situation whereby casting a vote for a candidate of the opposite party effectively makes that vote not count. The voter may as well stay home, knowing that because of gerrymandering in his or her district, the outcome is already predetermined. That certainly discourages people from participating in the voting process. No wonder the voter turnout in Indiana is so low. Why bother? Because my district is gerrymandered by the other party. When a state legislature is gerrymandered, resulting in a supermajority for one party, that party can place into law things that are not in the best interests of the citizens of that state. Witness the disaster that has been created allowing vouchers for private schools. That voucher money is taken from the public schools that really need it and given to parents who pay for private schooling for their children. In many cases, these parents can well afford to pay the tuition for that private school. Recently, there have been news stories about charter schools.
Sir, if you could focus your comments, I understand the connection here, but focus your comments primarily on redistricting, I would appreciate it.
In an op-ed in the Journal Gazette on August 4th, Republican Representative Tim Wesco said, and I quote, "We look forward to hosting these important meetings and hearing directly from the public on Indiana redistricting process. Hoosiers can be confident that we'll continue to meet all of our statutory and constitutional requirements," end quote. Representative Wesco, you are hearing from me. Those requirements actually set a low bar. The redistricting roadshow that gets underway Friday gives lip service to public participation. In the same op-ed, Democratic Representative Phil Giaquinta said, and I quote, "I fear holding meetings prior to the proposed new district maps being available to the public will be of little value," end quote. He feels a second round of public hearings should be held after maps are drawn. Republican leaders won't produce the only electoral maps this year because an independent commission has made reapportionment software available. Maybe there is hope yet that redistricting maps will not be yet another partisan sham, and that another set of public hearings will be held once the redistricting maps are actually drawn and available for public viewing. I, for one, won't hold my breath. Thank you.
Karen Nicias-Roger from Fort Wayne on deck. Jama Brown from Syracuse. Welcome, Karen.
My name is Karen Nicias-Roger. I wish I was here to speak to maps that will be in effect for 10 years, but since that's not one of our current realities, I'll speak to the maps that are currently in effect. I live in House District 81. Across the street from me is House District 80, and 4 blocks from that is House District 85. This is in one neighborhood. Now you might think, oh, it's Fort Wayne, it's densely populated, of course we have to cut it up. No, these are all single family or duplex residential. We don't have any densely populated apartments in our area. This is intentionally cutting up a neighborhood so that we don't have a voice of our own in state affairs. What I would like to see in the maps that will come out is integrity of neighborhoods, integrity of community voices. We do not have that. In 2 months, I have a son who will be old enough to vote. He will vote because he has told me that. I would like to see his vote be able to count. I would like to see my vote be able to count. I would like to not be gerrymandered out of my voice.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you particularly. I appreciate that kind of detail regarding those districts. That's most helpful. We appreciate it. Jama Brown, on deck, James Reeder. Jama from Syracuse, welcome.
I apologize that you have to lower this so much. I come from Kosciuszko County. Talk about gerrymandered. My county's cut in half between the 2nd Congressional District and the 3rd Congressional District. We've been in the 2nd, we've been in the 3rd, we've been in the 4th, we've been in every district that the state of Indiana decides we want to be in, depending on whether the Republican needs the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th. We've been in every district. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters for North Central Indiana. That covers Kosciuszko County, Whitley County, and Wabash County. The president of League of Women Voters for Allen County is here. We work our tail ends off trying to register new voters every cycle. You make it so hard for us to get voters registered. You work hard to prevent us from getting people to the ballot on purpose. You have an endeavor to prevent voters. It is a mission. It is a concerted effort to prevent new voters. You know why? New voters are more likely to vote Democrat than any other party. They're more likely to show up to the ballot because we work hard to get their voices heard. You're more likely to vote Democratic because we show up in neighborhoods like the Burmese population here in Fort Wayne. We take Burmese languaged voter registration forms to Fort Wayne. We show up in their neighborhoods. You guys are nowhere to be found. Nowhere. You know why? They're brown people. They're invisible to the Republican Party. We show up with Spanish forms. You know why? They're invisible to the Republican Party. We go in barbershops. We go where we want to find voters. And gerrymandering is how you keep them from the ballots. Gerrymandering is how you keep them from the polls. Gerrymandering is how you keep your majority. You want to keep this a fair fight? Get rid of the parties. Get rid of the Democratic majority and the Republican majority. Get a nonpartisan person to come in and draw these maps and make it a fair map. Get rid of the parties. Get rid of someone who's going to say it's a Republican map, it's a Democratic map. Get rid of that part of it, and then no one can blame you. Then you can say, you know what? We did what you asked. That's how it is. Because until then, we know who's to blame. Until then, you're making it harder for people like me to get people registered to vote and get rid of 14% voter turnout.
James Reeder from Fort Wayne, on deck, George Fernandez. Welcome, James.
Thank you, Representative. My question has been eloquently answered by Representative Arrington, so thank you for that. But I would like to say that, ladies and gentlemen, something is rotten in the state of Denmark, and the state of Indiana, and the state of Ohio, and in fact, in nearly every state of this country. And that rotten thing is caused by gerrymandering, whether it's a Democratic state or a Republican-leaning state. Gerrymandering keeps the voters from voting.
our youth. We work with them, my wife and I, with a program called We the People. And it works with elementary school kids through high school. And these kids tell us that their peers don't plan or don't vote because their vote doesn't count. And that is directly caused by the gerrymandering that goes on in the entire country. Indiana needs to lead the way and show the country how a district should be drawn up equitably and fairly throughout the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. George Fernandez from Fort Wayne. On deck, Larry Scheinman. I'm pronouncing that correct. Welcome, George.
Hi. My name is Jorge Fernandez. While Indiana's first past the post single-member system, district system, is not designed to be proportional like systems in other countries or the U.S. city of Cambridge, Massachusetts, the State House should not be deliberately trying to make State House and congressional maps disproportionate to the desires of the community. It is basically impossible to deny that the 2011 State House and congressional maps did this. That they were deliberately slanted to serve the desires of incumbent state legislators rather than try to accurately represent the desires of Hoosiers. Okay? Will you be using political data again this time? We should make sure to preserve communities of interest in redistricting. This is clearly not done in the many districts in Indiana in 2011 mapmaking. For state and congressional districts, keep counties together, okay? Unless crossing is needed to keep a city or town together. I don't know what the census numbers need to draw the district will look like when they come out later this year, or next week. But I do know that it will always be possible to draw a map that only crosses over into one other county maximum. Compare that to the 5 of Allen County's 9 state rep districts crossing into another county. Keep cities and towns together. Make sure no more than one legislative district crosses each city or town boundary. Always possible. Currently, of the 6 Fort Wayne state rep districts, only 1 is entirely in the city of Fort Wayne. Keep minority communities with cultural ties together. Keep school districts together when not in conflict with keeping cities and towns or minority communities with cultural ties together. And draw incumbent blind. Disregard where incumbents like yourselves live. Okay? Here are just a couple of examples of how the 2011 maps broke up what should be considered communities of interest. Mad Anthony's restaurant in Fort Wayne is in the state rep district I live in. George's International Market across the street isn't, even though the city of Huntington is in that district. Canterbury Green Housing, just, right here, next to Purdue Fort Wayne, it is split between 2 state representative districts, okay? And even though one of them, the District 85, under the 2011 maps, goes all the way out to Woodburn and the county line. And the Covington Commons Shopping Center is in 1 state rep district, while the senior housing community behind it is in another state rep district, even though they're both in the same city council district in Fort Wayne Community School District. So whatever you do, just keep those rules and you'll do a whole lot better on the maps than what happened in 2011. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry Scheinman. On deck, Matt Morley. Welcome, Larry, from Fort Wayne.
Thank you very much. Most of my comments have already been discussed. I may reiterate a couple of them. First of all, I want to remind everyone here that you guys work for us. We voted for you or someone else. Right now, due to gerrymandering, I think most people think these elections are rigged because they're one-sided. The party in power, chooses the political data that's going to best serve them based on, you look at the election results. You got 70+% Republicans, but their majority is only 50%. 58%. Something's wrong. In addition to that, are you going to continue to use this packing and cracking of districts, forcing people in one district if they're Democrat, or spreading them out so their votes don't count? That's stuff that has been going on for decades. It's time for these things to change. We want free and fair elections. You know, on the website of Indiana, it says there's free and fair elections under this, the Indiana Voting Rights of Indiana. It's far from free and fair. And the last comment I have is, would you accept an independent commission's unbiased, non-political data type conclusion? Because I think most people here would. I think everybody here needs to think about free and fair and get this gerrymandering out of here. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Morley from Fort Wayne. On deck, Tammy Ingalls from Wabash. Matt Morley. Welcome.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I have the unique position of growing up in a different community, went to college in a different community, and then moved to Fort Wayne. And I also have the unique position of transitioning to a different side of the political spectrum in that time frame. And I volunteered throughout my time as an adult that gets to vote. And I see the cockiness and arrogance of the majority because I once expressed that cockiness and arrogance and got to be a part of it. And I understand what it's like to be on the winning side because I was there. And so while I was there, though, I looked around and I realized that my friends, my own flesh and blood, were not being properly represented. We're not being listened to, and we're not being respected, and we're degraded on quite immensely. And I am frustrated for them, and I want better for them. And now that I'm in Fort Wayne, thanks to my sweet wife, who is a native of Fort Wayne, I see a city that is progressing, that is moving forward, and I'm excited to be a part of that. But then I look at my state representative map, and I, who live in the city limits, am represented by a man in another county. And I don't understand how that can be seen as fair, how that can be seen as equal, when we're in one of the largest cities, 2 or 3 largest cities in the state. And I have to be represented by a person in another county. That doesn't seem fair, that doesn't seem right, and it seems very strategic on someone's part that it was done that way, so that the people in my neighborhood, the people in my city, wouldn't be properly represented. And I'm urging you to please take care of the people of your state. It sure seems like you want to keep people my age and younger down and from fighting and working to better themselves. People my age and younger can't pick themselves up from the bootstraps when you're taking their boots away. And I just urge you to listen to people and to make this right. You have a chance to make history in the state of Indiana. Do what's right.
Tammy Ingalls from Wabash. On deck, Tom Hayhurst from Fort Wayne. Tammy Ingalls, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to see my representative, Craig Snow here. Thank you. We've all seen this study by Professor Warshaw, and it's an embarrassment to our state that we are the worst gerrymandered state in the nation. It is no coincidence to me that Indiana ranks in the 10 worst livable states in the nation. We are number 1 worst in pollution. That is the biggest embarrassment to me. It's not Louisiana, it's not Texas, it's Indiana. You know, when we have, let's say the Indiana Hoosiers, if they're at the bottom, are they going to just say, somebody has to be last? No. They're going to say, we want to hire better leadership for our team. They don't pick their own reps. It's not up to you to pick the voters. It's up to us to pick you to be our representatives. As I see a supermajority in both chambers of our General Assembly, I see a majority Republican Supreme Court. I see a Republican in the governor's mansion for the last 20 years. That tells me that there is a trend towards totalitarian rule. And that is the thing that we despise most about the governments of China, Syria, Cuba, North Korea. We can't be like that. Like one gentleman stated before, let Indiana be the leader in showing how we can produce fair maps, not maps that look like jigsaw puzzles. That is ridiculous. Let us have an independent, nonpartisan panel, commission, draw our maps. Because I believe that our greatest Hoosier value is caring for the common good, not a minority of special interests. If you believe in the common good, like I do, you will put together an independent panel to do this. Not a guy from the swamp. Thank you.
Tom Hayhurst from Fort Wayne. On deck, Lionel Kramer, I believe. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Good morning, and thanks so much to state officials for holding public hearings. We greatly appreciate that. I'm Tom Hayhurst. I'm a former Fort Wayne City Council member times 12 years, and I'm an alternate member of the bipartisan Indiana Citizens Redistricting Commission. I'm speaking on behalf of myself as an alternate ICRC member. I'm also speaking on behalf of Marilyn Moran Townsend, who has a conflict with an important event. She is a Republican member of the bipartisan Indiana Citizens Redistricting Commission, which was established to demonstrate how an official bipartisan Indiana Redistricting Commission could function. So our request, based on many hours of public hearings, we had public hearings in all 9 congressional districts throughout the state, took a lot of public input, is that our representatives follow these principles in drawing new district maps. First, please keep communities of interest intact. We already heard several comments regarding that important point. Secondly, be transparent. We are requesting public participation in redistricting, including having follow-up public hearings after the initial maps are drawn later this year. This is round 1. We're looking forward to round 2 of public hearings so we can have input after we see the maps which are drawn. Make districts more competitive, even if this means state, House, and Senate districts are more varied in their population, which we understand is somewhat is legal in the state of Indiana. And again, per information we received in public hearings, please establish an official Citizens Redistricting Commission in the state of Indiana. The same type of commission is present in many states throughout the nation and works well. So thank you again for holding these hearings. We'll look forward to the follow-up hearings after the initial maps are drawn. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Lionel Kramer, Lionel, sorry, Fort Wayne. Joyce Bentz on deck. James Boogert. Welcome, Joyce.
I'd like to thank all of you for being here. And sir, you failed to mention one legislator that's here, Representative Gray from my own county is here. So I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
And one of the things that we've kind of seen throughout this is the secrecy is what it appears. Whether you guys are doing this or not in secrecy, it appears that way. There's a lot of things that appear to be done that aren't in the good interests of Hoosiers. It just seems like that this whole thing has been kept away from us. Why? Why isn't this being done so that we know for sure? Especially in the times of the big lie. We all know what the big lie is. And that big lie trickles down to the very counties in which we all represent, the very neighborhoods which we all represent. It's time for this state to take a look at the fairness. Are we looking at these numbers as people, or are we looking at them as donors? Why is Kosciuszko County split up into two different districts? Is that so Zimmer can give money to one, and if you can give one to another? So that it's not concentrated all in one person? Is that part of what's going on with this? I'm from Huntington. Senator Zay is my representative. I have friends here that live 3 miles from me, and he's not their representative. Huntington County isn't populated to be cut up. It makes no sense. And I'd like to thank the other side of the room, even though there's 3 of you. Thank you. Stick up for us, and we'll stick up for you. Thank you.
Thank you. James Boogert from Fort Wayne on deck. Derek Camp. Welcome, James.
I thank you for being here, all of you. I was an employee of the federal government this spring as a supervisor in the Census Bureau office in Fort Wayne. And I can assure you all that that process was transparent, accurate, complete, and you can rely on the data that we produced for you. It feels good in my heart to know that we did such a good job, counted them all, and gave you the data.
Thank you. We appreciate those who were a part of that.
And I thank you for thanking the lady earlier on in the detail that she came to you with about how her block was chopped up and neighbors were in different districts. So what I'd like to do is follow the lead of my leader, Stephen Covey, who said, seek first to understand, then to be understood. And I want to ask you all, how many are there? 16? A question that I would like to have you answer right now so that we leave this room with a little bit more nitty-gritty.
Sir, I just want to point out that if the committee would like to ask you questions, that is welcome, but all of the questions are out of order. Of course, rhetorical questions are always in order, but you may continue.
Wow. I thought we came here to understand why you guys are keeping things secret, no?
Sir, we came here to gather public input. We came to gather public input and to hear from the public. Please continue.
Okay. Well, let me just leave you with a opinion of Jim Bugert that doesn't seem very smart. It seems to me that we're here to understand the process We hear in the paper that you'll have two different processes. One is very secret, one is very transparent. And I'm just telling you then, if you don't want to answer my question, does anybody else want to answer that question? Why are you guys doing it in secret? Nobody's gonna step on that one, huh? Go
No,
ahead.
I'm not recognizing any members to answer questions from the public.
But Representative Cherish Pryor would like to give me an answer to that, and the chairman won't allow that?
If Representative Pryor would like to ask you a question, she's welcome to do so.
Oh, wonderful. I'm all ears, girl. Lady, woman, I'm sorry. My wife told me not to say girl, so I apologize.
Don't say girl. I just want to say that I will be around after this meeting, and anyone that would like to ask a question of me, please come up, and I will be more than happy to answer for you.
Thank you
Anyone
very
else?
much. Very good. Thank you for coming, and now I can tell you I'm glad that I came because I have a way of communicating both ways. You answering my questions and I answering your questions and giving you some input. So thanks for being here, folks.
Thank you. Derek Camp from Fort Wayne. On deck, Sharon Busick Powell. Derek, welcome.
Thank you. I want to say first, welcome to Fort Wayne and Allen County. This is a great home, and we're happy to have you here. And anyone who is wanting to go walk these district lines and see just how screwed up they are is welcome to join me in doing so. 10 years ago, the Republican majority at the time, and some of the members of this panel may have been in that legislature, hired an outside DC lobbyist to help draw the lines. Just this last week, it was released that another DC lobbyist was hired to help draw the lines behind the scenes in the State House files. Why are we having outside people help with this? Why are we as Indiana taxpayers paying for this when this legislature has multiple ways of doing this locally? Why? Chairman, I realize that you may not recognize anyone else here to speak, but this is a public hearing. This is one prong, and if people don't trust the process, which is what is happening with this type of hearing, then they aren't going to trust these lines, they aren't going to trust the districts, and they aren't going to vote. So I would highly recommend that you start answering some questions to people that are here asking them.
Have you completed your testimony?
Are you going to answer the question?
Have you completed your testimony?
I have, and you've had a day to think about this because you've been asked the same questions yesterday too.
Thank you for your testimony. Sharon Busick Powell. Sharon Busick Powell from Fort Wayne on deck. Corbin Havner. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you. My name is Sharon Busick Powell, and while I live in Fort Wayne now, I own a farm out in southeast Allen County. And where I live happens to be the Northwest Allen County School District, and my grandchildren go to school there. If you can tell, I don't like public speaking. My concern is Northwest Allen County Schools has been divided into 4 House districts, 2 Senate districts, and none of those legislatures live within the school district boundaries. I want to see public school corporation boundaries respected, because what better community of interest than a school corporation? Such that they have only 1 representative and 1 state senator. Additionally, try not to divide cities and towns into multiple districts, and where it's necessary because of population size, respect those school districts. So like others here today, I want an open, transparent redistricting process. I encourage you to again have public meetings to discuss any proposed map and the criteria you used to draw those maps before they're voted on. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and welcome to Fort Wayne, and hope you consider my request.
Thank you, Sharon. Corbin Havner from Fort Wayne on deck. Gary CKASY, I'm not quite sure. Welcome, Corbin.
Hello. Thank you for having me up here.
I actually don't live too far away from here. I live in Canterbury Green in District 85, although directly across the street from me in my own apartment complex is District 84. What I decided to do is just get a good feel of the maps, and I just want to draw attention to House Districts 50 and 85, considering how they dig very, very deep into some of the more populated areas of Fort Wayne, while lumping us voters with larger rural territory of both Eastern Allen County and Huntington. My question with that is, how can I or anybody be represented fairly with districts like that on issues like public transportation? And I bring that up because, I followed in frustration this past legislative session when the General Assembly attempted to undermine the progress in Indigo's bus rapid transit, despite the will of our fellow Hoosiers in Marion County.
Have you completed your testimony?
Yeah, because I just think it's important to our urban residents that, particularly those that might be starting out, that there's that there's accurate representation for interests like public transportation, which, maybe doesn't affect rural residents as much, but is certainly a bigger deal to our more urban residents.
Thank you. After consultation, I think it's Gary Cheney. Does that ring a bell? From Woodburn? Someone from Woodburn named Gary? All right, Dave Cooper from Churubusco, and on deck, Alan Lauer from Fort Wayne. Dave Cooper, welcome. Churubusco.
Yes. The rules of engagement in a public meeting is we get up and make statements, and you guys take notes and do all of that. And I would like to.
If you could speak directly into the mic, so that
I would like to thank Representative Pryor for letting people know that they can ask questions afterwards. But I do have a question. If you could record it just for discussion. How long does it take to draw the lines, and is that time frame governed by law? That would be my question, but I don't have a comment other than if you can't get out and vote, regardless of what district you're in, you got a problem.
Thank you, Dave. Alan Lauer from Fort Wayne. Welcome, Alan. On deck, Michael Fuller.
Good morning, and very appreciative of the opportunity to speak to this group. I hope that you will keep your constituents involved in the redistricting process. There are a couple alternatives that can be used. One is a software package and also an independent commission. And I would support either of those. I think those are good solutions to some of the problems. One reason why I say that is the 3rd Congressional District has been reported it is the most gerrymandered congressional district in the state of Indiana. May be higher than that. But anyway, I thank you for your time, and I would be happy to interchange thoughts and comments with you anytime you'd be willing or available. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Fuller from Fort Wayne. On deck, Rebecca Reeder. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you so much. First, I want to thank everybody here, and particularly those that are actively listening and taking notes. I really appreciate your active involvement in listening to all of our comments and concerns. I'm going to keep my remarks very brief because many of the things that I think everybody has already said. I strongly urge all of you to consider an independent panel for the redistricting, and please, please, please hold more public hearings once the maps are released. it's very difficult for us to make comments to you when we don't know what the outcomes will look like. Also, I would strongly encourage you to have more hearings and have them in bigger locations. As you can see, we don't have enough room here. We're not adequately socially distant. So I please encourage you to have bigger locations and have more hearings. I also would like to thank all of you for wearing your masks today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Rebecca Reeder from Fort Wayne. On deck, Roxana Murray, Roanoke. Roxana Murray from Roanoke. On deck, Joseph Quinlisk. Welcome, Roxana.
Thank you. I'm Roxana Murray. I'm from Roanoke, Huntington County, and I would like to speak to ask for a nonpartisan commission to draw the lines. Voters should choose their elected, not those in positions meant to serve the citizens choosing who will elect them. Fair elections mean one person, one vote. There's nothing for anyone to fear when everyone has a chance to have their voice heard. I also appreciate Representative Arrington saying of transparency and having meetings after the boundaries are drawn. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxana. Joseph Quinlisk. On deck, Ron and Kathy Duchovic. Welcome, Joseph.
Thank you. First off, can everyone hear me? Is the sound coming through okay? Excellent. I would like to thank everyone who came for being here. Especially, we have a few legislators, I understand. I didn't catch all their names, but I thank you all for coming. I thank you all for wearing your masks, because it's a weird time right now. I noticed a lot of people have a lot of notes and prepared remarks, which I don't, which made me a little bit nervous at first, but to tell the truth, looking at the maps that have been used in the past, that fear quickly evaporated, especially looking at my current residence of Fort Wayne, which I know there was an earlier commenter who noted that there were some districts being given over to the current minority party, and I think I heard a little bit of pushback on that, but it is true because a plurality of those votes have gone into House District 80, and the rest of the city, it seems, has been carved up into, 8 separate House districts? Represented mostly by people who don't live in Fort Wayne. And frankly, but for half a mile, I would be I'm currently in House District 1, House District 81, but for half a mile, I would be in House District 80, which includes Columbia City. And I wish no disrespect to the residents of Columbia City. I think they're wonderful people, but I'm not one of them, and I don't think they would consider me to be one of them, and nor should they, because I live in Fort Wayne. As I have noted, it's been carved up like a Christmas ham on the House District map of years past. On the Senate District map, it's been sliced in 3, and I think I speak for, I don't know this for certain, but I think I speak for a lot of other Fort Wayne residents when I note that most of us don't really have a voice in the state government. And to be honest, I hold the General Assembly at large responsible for this. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian or even a communist. I'm holding the entire Assembly responsible for this because the system as it is set up provides absolutely no incentive to ensure fairness or community integrity when drawing these district maps. As it stands, the legislature draws the maps for themselves. That is not a system that is conducive to fairness or community integrity. And I am coming here hoping, begging, pleading with this committee and with the General Assembly at large to give us maps that keep communities intact and provide for competitive districts at all levels, State House, State Senate, Congress. But to be honest, I don't have much faith that that's going to happen. I'm usually amenable to being proven wrong when I am in the wrong, never more so than on this issue. Please, for the love of all that any of us find sacred, prove me wrong. Give us maps that promise to represent the people of our communities. I don't want to see my community get carved up anymore because, as I've said before, I don't have a voice in the state government right now. And frankly, I don't see that changing anytime soon. Please prove me wrong. Thank you.
Ron and Kathy Dichovic on deck. Peg Magan. Welcome, Kathy.
Yes, I'm Kathy Dukovic. And I am not going to repeat what others have articulated so clearly. I want to point out that just previous speaker here really summarized many of the aspects of the redistricting effort, as did Jorge Fernandez and Sharon Musical, among others. As a member of the League of Women Voters Fort Wayne, part of the All In for Democracy Coalition, we ask that you thoroughly review the Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission's report. Over 1,000 Hoosiers participated in the virtual meetings where there were questions and answers and advocacy. You know, over 50 years ago, I started my quest on civic engagement with Richard Lugar, Representative Latz, and others, with, as a high school student, being taken to the State House and various competitions in the state of Indiana, sort of like the We the People. I believe that we need engaged citizens in our state. When you look at our voting outcomes or input, it is abysmal. We need to have fair, open elections, and that starts with fair districts. Please take this into consideration and look at our communities of interest, which can be defined in many ways, but we need to be able to have responsible leadership, really looking at how those communities can be preserved so our citizens will feel free to actively engage.
Thank you. Peg Magan from Fort Wayne on deck. Betsy Kachmar. Welcome, Peg.
Thank you.
All right, hopefully you can hear me, or do I need to take my mask off? Can you hear me? Okay, well, I am Peg McGinn, and I am also a member of the League of Women Voters, and also the All In for Democracy Coalition, supporting the ICRC, the Independent Redistricting Commission. But I'm not going to repeat what others have said. I'd like to speak also, not just as a member of these groups today, but also as a business person of longstanding in this community. I am retired now, but I previously started and grew a business practice, a private practice in healthcare with employees. I've purchased and been an owner of a farm. I've also managed a family limited partnership. So I know what it takes to start and maintain a business. And I'm always thinking, it's so ironic that you all, and I think all of us, consider Indiana to be a business-friendly state. I mean, we want people to come here. We want innovative, creative products. We want excellence in service. And we want to be able to compete with the very, very best that there is in any field. And that's how I always felt with my businesses. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to have the most continuing education, the best products for my employees, the best conditions for my employees, etc. But I know one thing that we don't like as Hoosiers, and most of us, and I think you would agree, we don't like monopolies. Because if you have a monopoly, you have a business with no competition, which then leads to having little or no incentive for any improvements or innovation or providing excellence in services. And my concern is that because of gerrymandering, partisan gerrymandering, our voting districts have now virtually become monopolies. They're controlled by one party. And just like a monopoly, that stifles creativity, and it allows only very limited to no competitiveness, and it results in legislators who just are less responsive to their voters. And that's because they don't have to be. If they're in safe, protected districts, they don't have to listen to anybody. And that's very unfortunate for all of us. So like others here today, I just want to reiterate, I want to see an open, transparent redistricting process that will restore competition and ensure that communities remain intact so that all voices can not only be heard but be respected and appreciated. And then also research has identified another good redistricting practice that I am going to ask that you consider implementing, and that is called nesting. That is keeping 2 state House districts within 1 state Senate district. You're virtually nesting the 2 House districts within the state Senate district. And so after drawing the state House districts, it would be very easy to combine 2 adjacent state Senate districts, because we have 100 of the House districts and 50 of the Senate districts. And this would have the advantage of providing the citizens in that particular district with not only having the same representative, but then they would also have the same senator, which would be very advantageous for continuity. And of course, as others have mentioned, this should all be done drawing these districts incumbent blind. So I want to thank you for allowing us to participate in this open public meeting. And I also ask, as others have, that you have these same public meetings in bigger spaces to allow for more people, and given enough time so that we can review the maps after they have been drawn and proposed and before they have been voted upon. So thank you very much.
Betsy Kochmar from Fort Wayne, on deck Sally Swihart. Welcome, Betsy.
Good morning. Thank you for providing us with this opportunity to meet with you today. My name is Betsy Kochmar. I am a co-president of the League of Women Voters of the Fort Wayne area. I'm speaking with you today on behalf of the 70 members and over 1,000 friends of Fort Wayne League. You've heard from several of us already. The League of Women Voters have been empowering voters for over 100 years. Our members have been advocating for more open and equitable redistricting processes in Indiana for decades. We have participated in the Indiana Citizens Redistricting Commission hearings and are helping to identify communities of interest for the redistrictor mapping process. We have read reports and researched what other states are doing. We have worked hard to educate and engage others in our community about the redistricting process. We come here today to let you know we are all very interested in how the maps will be drawn this year. We want an open redistricting process. We want to see your deliberations, know the criteria and priorities you will be using, see drafts of the map, and be provided the opportunity to recommend modifications. We seek an equitable distribution of the population while maintaining as much as possible communities of interest. For example, as you can see from these maps, Allen County is divided into several different state representative districts. Southeast Fort Wayne is divided into 3 districts, and these voters are paired with those in rural areas that have very dissimilar interests. Recognizing and honoring communities of interest will allow us for a more engaged citizenry and a more responsive government. We look forward to another round of hearings and the opportunity to speak with you once again, once the census data has been released and draft maps have been created. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Sally Swihart. On deck, Matthew Booker. Sally from Fort Wayne, welcome.
Thank you. I live approximately 2 miles from the center of Fort Wayne. I am represented by a representative from Huntington. When I moved into my home in 1980, I was represented by someone who lived approximately 4 or 5 blocks from me. And suddenly, my district was changed from District 80 to District 50. District 50 is represented by someone who lives in Huntington County. District 50 makes up a large majority, if not all, Huntington County and Wells County. However, approximately 10-block area of my neighborhood is in District 50. 1 block to the north of me, my neighbors are in District 80. 2 blocks to the south of me, my neighbors are in District 80. Those of us who live in the 10-block little bit that has been cut out are in District 50. All of us, Democrats or Republicans, have been disenfranchised. We have no voice in the Indiana legislature. Never seen my representative in my neighborhood, nor do I expect to. The times that I have written letters, I get a form letter back. My neighbors and I, again, or Democrat, have no voice. The interests of those in Huntington County and the interests of those who live 2 blocks from the center city of Fort Wayne may or may not fall along the same line. It's not that one person's interests are more important, it's simply that they are different. But we have no voice. None. There is a representative of District 80 who lives 4 blocks from me. Why am I not still in District 80? We are the poster child for gerrymandering. And in what has happened is not only have Democratic voices been silenced, but Republican voices too. So I hope that when you start looking at these districts, you realize what you are doing when you make districts that work for individuals instead of for the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Matthew Booker from Fort Wayne. On deck, Jessica Farlow. Welcome, Matthew.
Great, thank you. My name is Matthew Booker. I'm from Fort Wayne, Indiana. I came to this meeting to try to express my support for an independent commission to draw the districts. I came to this meeting to express my support to have an independent commission draw these and for you guys to solicit more public feedback in a setting that is appropriate. When I first got here, I wasn't sure what I was going to say, but as I was in the back of the room, I noticed a message from one of our elected representatives sending it to another elected representatives, making comments about white liberals. What I would like to say is I thank each and every one of you guys out here who are coming out to bring these issues to the forefront, knowing that not only do they affect you, but they affect other people who do not have the voice to stand up and say it. So, I hope that you guys take what we're saying into consideration because things need to change.
Jessica Farlow from Fort Wayne. On deck, David Patton. Welcome, Jessica.
Good morning. I'm a teacher, so I'm actually going to walk over here to show you guys because I feel like visual learners need something as well.
Ma'am, I'm not sure that the cameras allow that because we're live streaming this.
Okay, so if you could turn your attention to the maps, that would be great. So I teach here in Fort Wayne Community Schools. I love my district, and I teach at a school that is called a neighborhood school. So neighborhood schools, for those not in education, mean that my children live within a 1 mile radius of the school. They are not offered bus transportation, and they all come from the same neighborhood, right? So they should all be represented by the same representative, right? Well, interesting enough, if you look over where my school is, we have 5 representatives. I have children who live across the hall from each other and have a different representative. So, the reason I bring this up isn't because children vote. I get it, you don't care about kids. But let me explain to you why this affects me. So, my job is not just to educate children. My job is to provide them services and to make sure when their families are struggling that they get the help they need. So during COVID, this was it was difficult. I'd have families texting me, I don't have food in my house. Our road is unsafe. We just had a murder in front of our house. What do we do? So I would have to take every single address. I would have to look up who their representative was, who their senator was, who their city council person was. And everyone had somebody different. Isn't that interesting? So getting them the services they need is extremely difficult because nobody represents them. Nobody cares about the Baldwin Creek kids. Nobody cares about the Jamestown apartment Burmese families, or the fact that they share the same interests, they share the same services, they share the same schools, but they don't share the same representatives. I don't even know who to call half the time. I am literally digging on my teacher time for hours to provide services for students because one school in a 1 mile radius has 5 representatives. Okay? And let me explain what this does at the State House. Most of inner city Fort Wayne Community Schools is repped by Liz Brown. Liz Brown also reps Northwest Allen County Schools. So I go down to the State House because that's what I'm supposed to do. I am supposed to argue on behalf of my children. And I go to Liz Brown, who is the representative for this school, and she says, "Why do you even care? You don't have preschool in Fort Wayne Community Schools." I said, "Ma'am, I am 36 years old, and I went to preschool in Fort Wayne Community Schools." And she said, "Oh, sorry, I guess I'm just more familiar with Northwest Allen County." So explain to me how the students at Abbott and Adams and Harrison Hill and all of those kids on the southeast side of town have somebody that represents them when the woman looks the teacher of them directly in the face and says, "I guess I'm more concerned about Northwest Allen County." But we know why that is, right? Because they're the ones who fund her. Just because these little populations don't give the funding doesn't mean they don't get a voice. We don't buy our politicians. We elect them. And the people on the south side of Fort Wayne deserve to have a voice. And they don't. And if you want these next generation of kids to believe in democracy, which is also part of the 5th grade curriculum that I have to teach, you might want to show them that they have a voice, whether they live in Baldwin Creek or they live in Cherry Hill.
David Patton from Fort Wayne. Marcia Edmond on deck. Welcome, David.
Wow, how do I follow that? Red for Ed. I'm a lifetime resident of Indiana, a Hoosier. I have voted in every election that I could since I've been 21, and I have always voted a split ticket because I thought I'm voting for the individual, not for the party. I really want to understand what they're bringing to us. So the issue that I have with the problem of gerrymandering is every Hoosier vote should be equal the vote of any other Hoosier. whether you live in an urban environment, a suburban, or rural area. Each of our votes count equally, or should count equally. Gerrymandering prevents that from happening. So I'm here to ask you to treat us fairly. You are our elected officials doing the will of the people, not the will of the Republican Party, Democratic Party, or Libertarian Party, or however you're aligned. But you are here to support us as Hoosier citizens. Thank you.
Marcia Edmond from Fort Wayne on deck. Jeanette Jaquish. Welcome, Marcia.
Hello, I'm Marcia Edmond, and I want to thank all of you for being here today. I'm also a member of the League of Women Voters, and while I really appreciate the attention that you have given all the speakers here today, my concern is what's the result going to be? How is this going to change? Not what you're hearing, but what you are doing. Okay, you are giving us the opportunity to have a voice here today, but on election day, we don't have a voice. Our voices are not being heard. You have to understand that gerrymandering is not going to give us the progress that we need and want in a democratic society. This has to be done away with. Please take into consideration the report from the independent commission that has been presented to you, because we need to change what we are doing. Being down in Indianapolis as a legislator doesn't mean that you should just be concerned about remaining in power. You need to remember why you went there in the first place. You are supposed to be speaking for us, but too many of us are not being heard because of gerrymandering. So we have your ear today. You are allowing us a voice today. I would like to see us have a voice on each and every election day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Marcia. Jeanette, on deck, Linda Durrell. Welcome, Jeanette.
Hello. I went to see a funny thing happened on the way to the forum yesterday, and my family were the only ones in masks. So I came here today, and I was the only one besides one other recalcitrant not in the mask. So I just want you to recognize that you can't always judge by what you see. And I have, in my mind, tried to figure out fair redistricting. And I always come up with, you have to draw a line somewhere, and someone's going to live on this side of the line, and their neighbor's going to live on the other side. And it's very hard to tell if that was corruptively drawn or just had to go somewhere. Someone's got to live across the street with a line running down the middle. I would like to agree with many people who have said that you've got to simply, and this is as simple as you can get honest, fair, unbiased people on this committee. And may I recommend the Libertarians, because we can't elect anyone by a majority. We'd have to draw something like a spider web with dots all over to get one district where we had anything even approaching 50%. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Durrell, on deck, Cody Tennell. Welcome, Linda. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
I have my mask, following protocol, and I'm saying all of that rhetorically because today we've had, I can't tell you how many people who have said the same mantra, the same message, the same thing. So I'm going to repeat with passion that representation matters. Representation matters. If you are a child that the teacher just told us is in a neighborhood school whereby 5 different people are saying they represent them, that is unfair, and it doesn't speak to serve citizens and children. As you all know, gerrymandering by race is illegal. And gerrymandering by party is not. We have a sustained problem that has happened with the gerrymandering by party. It's not illegal, so how are you going to accept our voice? That's rhetorical, but when you have your committee meetings in September, we would like to hear from you. This is not illegal for you to gerrymander by party. I am repeating myself on purpose, but it is unfair and it doesn't represent our voice, and by that I mean the people. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Linda. Cody Tinnell from Fort Wayne.
Just going to pick it up. Good morning. Thank you for coming to Fort Wayne to listen to our concerns about redistricting. I'll keep this rather simple as many of my points have been eloquently shared already. I'm a resident of House District 50, like one of my neighbors who you heard from earlier. We're represented by Dan Leonard, despite living about 4 blocks from our good friend and neighbor, Representative Phil Giaquinta. That seems off, especially when you start to look at the pattern of how the maps start to look in the city of Fort Wayne. So doesn't take a rocket scientist to really look to see that obviously one district packed quite a few individuals into it who are like-minded, while the rest of the city of Fort Wayne was chopped up into little bits that are largely now represented by more suburban or rural representatives. So obviously an issue there. When we look at our state Senate districts in Allen County, it is very clear as well that the south side of Fort Wayne, the urban core that happens to look similar, vote in similar ways, has been chopped up into thirds as to completely eliminate that voice from the state Senate. That's a problem. It's a problem because the folks here in Fort Wayne lose their voice. We lose our ability to have meaningful say in the types of laws that are made down in Indianapolis. We lose the motivation to even show up and vote. Indiana obviously isn't setting any positive trends as it relates to voter turnout, and I think we have an opportunity to do a lot better by drawing districts that keep the right types of communities together, encourage competition in a way that every election isn't such a lopsided endeavor that many of you are don't even have to really work at it. You're on the ballot by yourself, perhaps. That's an issue. We have to do better in Indiana. We absolutely have to do better. Fort Wayne is a perfect example of what has been done wrong for the past 10 years, and we are very hopeful that those problems can be corrected for the future. Like everyone else here, thank you for this meeting. I really look forward to the meeting in the larger space after the maps come out so we can actually go through and show you, especially those who may not be familiar with Fort Wayne. That's understandable. You may not understand our neighborhoods and our communities. That's fine. When you come back, we'd love to show those to you and make sure you understand that the lines need to be drawn certain ways. So thank you.
Thank you, Cody. At this time, we're going to move to closing comments from members of the committee, and I'd like to recognize Senator Cadora to start.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank everyone, and before I continue with my thoughts, I saw a couple of folks wearing hats that they served our country, so thank you for your service. Thank you for being with us today, and for those who came from different places to make your voices heard. My name is Fadi Kadura, and I honorably represent and serve Senate District 30. I just got elected in the 2020 cycle last year. I affiliated with the Democratic Party in 2016, and I ran in a gerrymandered district from 2010. I ran against an honorable Republican, an honorable man that I respect, but we had different policy ideas. And we both had to bust our behinds working every single day, knocking on every single door, talking to every single voter to try to convey why we want to serve our community. So I became, and I was told, the first Democrat in 48 years to win a gerrymandered Republican district. The reason I shared that with you is to tell you, it also happens that I belong to a minority, and I became the first member of a minority in 200 years in the history of Indiana to have a voice at the state Senate in 200 years. And I don't think it should be that difficult in a democracy for people to have their voices heard. Evidently, I'm standing in front of you and I got elected, but it took 200 years. It took 48 years for a district to have a say in who they want to represent. My colleagues are honorable men and women who deeply care about their communities and their districts. And I want to thank the chairman. He's been very respectful throughout the whole process. He's been listening. I also share your concerns that the process definitely needs to be improved, because it would have been much better to have public hearings when the maps are drawn. It would have been much better to have larger spaces. It would have been much better to be in not only here in Fort Wayne, but in, if it was up to me, in 92 counties. But I want to tell you this: I am concerned, and not as a new legislator, but I'm concerned about our democracy. And that's why this last session, my first session, I introduced the Independent Redistricting Commission bill in 2021. And it didn't receive a hearing. I understand the tensions that could arise from people thinking about controlling power because they deeply believe that they want to convey their values to the rest of the state in terms of how to lead and so on. But here's my concern. I came from a third world country, and I've seen the firsthand the impact of when party controls, when one party is in charge, and that's not democracy. And I care less if it's the Republican or the Democratic Party. I will oppose, and I'm not afraid to say, I will oppose my Democratic friends if they decide to gerrymander if they were in control. Because what we sacrifice for political expediency to maintain power in the short term, what we're sacrificing is unbelievably, a precious thing that you can't place value on it, which is the institutions of our democracy. We erode democracy. And as a student of history who spent 7 years working on my PhD, I can tell you, the more you suppress people in any nation across the earth, the more that they will revolt. They will make their voices heard. And that leads to extremism. I will bust my behind every single day, putting my hand, my heart, and my mind with my Republican friends to compete for good public policy that serves the interest of those who hired us to serve you in the first place. And if we live in a free market economy, then why not have a free market of ideas? If a party is so confident about its ideas, then we shouldn't be afraid and changing the maps to allow one party, whether the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, to control these maps. And I can tell you, if any Democrat or any Republican ever tells you that we have the solutions for every single problem on this earth, I think you should doubt that answer. So I don't profess or say that I have the answers to everything, and that's why I need to work with my Republican friends to learn from them, to work with them, and to advance good public ideas, good public policies, and I urge them to do the same. So with that, thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me the opportunity to speak, even though we, at least in the minority, are not part of the redistricting process, meaning we don't have a say in how the maps are actually drawn. I urge my friends who have the power to do so, and I'm placing my hope into the chairman of the committee and the members of the committee, that in every profession in our country, you have to sign disclosures to communicate a conflict of interest. And unfortunately, the only institution that I can think of in the state of Indiana that does not have to convey or communicate conflict of interest when it comes to drawing maps is us, legislators. I don't think that is right. So thank you for coming here today. I hope that we can have more hearings after the maps are drawn and before they are sent to the governor. I hope that every Hoosiers, not liberals, I want Republicans, Democrats, non-affiliated, libertarians, and every person who earned the sacred right to access the ballot box, those who sacrificed their lives on the line to protect our democracy. I think it's an insult to them when we try to rig the map to determine the outcome of the elections for the next 10 years. I think it's wrong. I appreciate you, and I look forward to working with everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Fedora. Senator Crane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to say thank you all for coming out from the sound of things, coming out in a monsoon to be here and to let us hear from you as to your thoughts on the redistricting. As we've shared, or I've shared in previous meetings, we had 2 yesterday, we've got 2 today, so I was calculating it'll probably be about 500 miles that we've traveled, at least in the last couple days, to hear from people. One of the things, I share the frustration, and I know we do, about the way the timeline has played out, and some of those things are out of our control. And no matter what issue we address, there's always a need for greater input as best we can.
Excuse me, I introduced him as Senator Crane. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I know that when we're dealing with any issue, whatever it is, and those of you who've been down to the State House probably have seen this firsthand, we never have enough time to address all the unlimited issues that we have to deal with. And so one of the things that I shared in a previous meeting, I just think is worth noting, and it's maybe a sliver of a silver lining, is that with the delay, it's allowed us to actually become more solely focused on this particular issue. If this had been brought up in the normal timeline of events, we would have been dealing with it during the 2021 legislative session, and it would have been one of many important issues, including the budget and the emergency orders and education issues and all these other things that we were dealing with then. And so we're able to then give this even more directed attention than we might have otherwise. And that, to me, is especially why you being here today is so important. As my good friend and colleague, Senator Fedora, pointed out, despite our flaws, we live in a country that allows the people to speak up and to be able to let their voices be heard. And there's plenty of examples around the world of countries that don't have that. And as much as we may get frustrated with each other, I think the fact that we can come to a public forum like this and share with one another is a blessing that we can't sell short. So thank you again very much. Safe travels to you.
Thank you, Senator Crane. Representative Pryor is recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to thank all of you for coming out today. Can you hear me? I want to thank all of you for coming out. I say this when I first spoke, but I consider myself another representative of Fort Wayne because I graduated from Fort Wayne Southside. So I didn't say that, but I am a proud Southside Hoosier Archer and will be until the day I die. So this is our third meeting that we have gone to. We have one more in Goshen this evening or afternoon that we will be going to. But one gentleman has said that, he appreciated us taking notes, and I have been taking notes probably on every single speaker that have spoken and what they have said. And there truly has been a common theme at the 3 locations that we have attended. And those main points, I'm not going to probably hit what everybody has said, but some common things that we have seen or heard throughout these 3 meetings, and it may be the same way at our last meeting as well, is people really want transparency. They don't want a closed door process. They want transparency. They want information. They want data. They want to see contracts. They want to see all the information, and they want to see the process and the criteria that was used to draw the maps. The other thing was competitive districts. You want to choose who represent you. You don't want us to be choosing who we represent. That has come across loud and clear. Keeping communities of interest together. When I was in Fort Wayne, much younger, did not know that districts were cut up the way that they are in Fort Wayne. And that certainly should be a concern for people. So as much as possible, communities of interest do need to be held together. So I heard that as well. Representation matters. People want to make sure that their representative is responsive, and respectful of them. And they want to make sure that we show up and that when you contact us, you get a response back from us. That was loud and clear throughout the meetings. Gerrymandering. People are sick and tired of it, and they want it to go. That has been loud and clear, probably one of the top things that people have said at all of the meetings that we have attended. This process has been a different process than what we had in 2011, in that we are getting the census data later. We just found out that we would get it, the data on the 12th versus the 16th, so about 4 days earlier. However, people were saying that, you know what, we heard this at the other meetings as well. We're having these meetings right now, but we really don't have anything to comment on. All we can say is what we don't want, but we don't have anything tangible to say, or no maps. Some people have come to the meetings and said we thought we were going to see maps. So people wanted to see maps when they came to the meetings, and it was very clear that people want us to have more hearings on the maps once those maps are drawn. The other big thing that people are saying, which has been consistent, is that people want independent commissions, and that has been consistent throughout as well. And so I think it's important for everyone that shows up to these meetings to know that everyone is on the same page, singing the same song in the same hymn book. We are just going to have to make sure, and I can say that the Democrats, we're going to be fighting to make sure that these issues that you all have raised are issues that are addressed when we go back in and draw these districts. So thank you all again for coming, and I'm glad to be back in my hometown.
Thank you, Representative Pryor. Are there any other members of the committee that would like to give closing comments? As the chair of the committee, I want to thank you for your time and your attention. I'd like to take the liberty as the chair to answer a few of the questions that came up today. Why was the census data delayed? COVID, it was outside of the legislature's control. Nothing we could do about that. Why is it drawn in secret? It will follow the same process that every bill and every law in the state of Indiana follows, with public hearings, committee process, opportunities for committee amendments, second reading amendments, and public input. The only thing different is that these public meetings have been held. That's more public input and light than any other bill gets in the General Assembly. Why outside consultants? Federal election law is extremely complex. The Voter Rights Act, many federal case laws, especially that have risen over the last decade, make it imperative that we have the best legal counsel possible as we work through this process. Finally, how long? The data will be released on August the 12th, this next week. It will take a couple of weeks for that data to be synthesized down to be able to be used in the redistricting software. We anticipate to be in session in the middle of September when this process of committee hearings and second reading amendment will occur in the House and in the Senate. Thank you again for your attendance today and for being here. We are adjourned.